Coming up on our newscast, a THAAD missile defense system with a range reduced to not exceed the Korean Peninsula. Washington hopes that will convince China and Russia that the system is not a threat to them. And a recent survey shows that the majority of Japanese citizens agree with a recent statement by their crown prince on how the country must acknowledge and accept history, including wartime crimes, instead of pushing for a different version of it. Korean TV makers take the lion's share of the European flat TV market, and Americans are warming up to Korean-made flat-screen TVs as well. Stay with us for these stories and more.
Very good to have you with us. Welcome to Early Edition at 6, live from Seoul. I'm Naihan Kyung.
And I'm Daniel Che. Thank you for joining us. We begin with some breaking news. There's more evidence about a young Korean man who went missing last month on the Turkish border and is suspected of having joined the Islamic State group.
The National Intelligence Service says the 18-year-old, whose last name is Kim, has been spotted receiving training from the militant group. And if you remember, he had tweeted in English and Arabic last October asking how he could join the group.
So it seems like it's serious that he may have been a part of that group voluntarily. He was last seen on January 10th leaving a hotel on the Turkey-Syria border and carrying a full backpack. We'll give you more updates in our later newscasts as the story develops.
That's right. And moving on to other stories we're following this evening, Japan's royal family emphasized the need to uphold the nation's pacifist constitution.
This is not the first time the royal family is making such remarks, and they're on a collision course against the right-wing cabinet. Our Connie Kim has more on this story.
Japan's royal family is ramping up pressure on the administration of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to uphold the country's pacifist constitution as Abe prepares to release a statement in August marking the 70th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. In a press conference this week marking his birthday, Crown Prince Naruhito emphasized the need to look back humbly on the past.
I think that it is important to correctly pass on the tragic experiences and history Japan pursued from the generation which experienced the war to those without direct knowledge.
Prince Naruhito went on to underline the importance of upholding the constitution. His position is in stark contrast to Abe's, who wants to revise a pacifist constitution and give the country the right to exercise its right to collective self-defense, allowing the Japanese military to aid allies under attack.
After going through a disastrous war, Japan is maintaining peace and prosperity under the constitution.
It's not the first time the Japanese royal family has called for preserving the current constitution. Back in December, Japan's emperor said the country should not forget about the precious lives that were sacrificed during wartime.
During World War II, more than 3 million people died. We shall not put their lives to waste.
Analysts say, however, that a conflict is likely as a right-wing cabinet, which decided last July to change the interpretation of the constitution, is unlikely to budge on the issue. The Japanese government plans to finalize items on the agenda for the constitutional revision no later than this fall. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
While the Abe administration seems to be in denial of the country's wartime atrocities, the majority of the Japanese public seems to be of a different mind. A recent poll shows they think their government should show remorse for Japan's historical wrongdoing in a statement to be released by the Abe cabinet this summer. Hwang Sung-hee reports.
The majority of the Japanese public says Prime Minister Shinzo Abe should uphold the apology for Japan's wartime atrocities expressed by his predecessors. A poll conducted by the Sankei Shimbun and Fuji News Network showed more than half of the respondents think a forthcoming statement by Abe should retain words like aggression, remorse, and apology used in the Murayama statement. Abe is set to release a statement this summer to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. The Japanese leader has hinted at moving away from the landmark apology issued in 1995 by then Prime Minister Tomichi Murayama, saying he wants the statement to reflect his government's position. But polls conducted by other Japanese media outlets, including the Asahi Shimbun, NHK, and Yomiuri Shimbun, have all produced similar results, that the Abe statement should carry words of remorse and apology over Japan's wartime role. So will the public sentiment be enough to sway the Japanese leader?
Then we're going to see a struggle between Shinzo Abe, the politician, who does what the majority want him to do, versus Shinzo Abe, the principled, committed defender of a proud Japan that has no more apologies for its past.
If Abe retains the expressions of remorse, experts say Korea could take it as a signal of his sincerity and an occasion to move forward in its current frosty relations with Japan. The bigger question is whether the Korean public will be ready to accept Abe's gestures. Experts say the government in Seoul will have to tread carefully to see if they have public support and move slowly on the issue. 황상희, Arirang News.
Now, in the meantime, Abe's speech at the U.S. Congress has yet to be approved. U.S. State Department spokesperson Jen Psaki said Monday local time that although Washington welcomes Abe's visit, Congress and the administration will need to discuss Abe's wish to speak before Congress. Korean American organizations in the U.S. have already started protesting Abe's possible speech. They say someone who denies his country's wartime wrongdoing, such as the sexual enslavement of Korean women, should not be given such an opportunity. If Abe does get to speak, he would be the first Japanese prime minister to speak before Congress in more than 5 decades.
Let's talk about national defense or possibilities of some new systems being implemented in Korea. THAAD. There was resistance from China and Russia when it comes to installing that long-range radar missile defense system from the United States and South Korea. And despite rumors of plans to make the radar range shorter, the Korean government says those rumors are not true. For more, here's our Connie Lee.
The South Korean government has come out to respond to the latest claims on the controversial American missile defense system. Despite earlier media reports that the missile shield, known as THAAD, is being planned with a shorter range radar of about 600 kilometers instead of a range of up to 2,000 kilometers, Seoul's defense ministry said that no decision has been made in regards to the system. On Tuesday, Defense Ministry spokesperson Kim Min-seok added that there's no way for the Korean government to know about the progress made on THAAD when the U.S. has not even formally asked to deploy the system in Seoul. Reports on Monday quoted an unnamed government source in Seoul saying the U.S. was planning to make changes to its THAAD system. THAAD, which is short for Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, is an anti-ballistic missile system designed to shoot down missiles in their terminal phase. Washington had hopes of deploying the system here in Seoul to counter military advances not only from China but also from Iran and North Korea. Both Seoul and Beijing have expressed reluctance about having the system in South Korea, saying it could threaten regional peace. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Tensions are brewing ahead of an annual South Korea-U.S. military exercise set to start next week. More than 200,000 troops are participating in the 2-week-long computerized command post exercise called Key Resolve and the field training drill named Full Eagle that runs through April. Although Seoul and Washington maintain that these drills are defensive and non-provocative in nature, North Korea says the drills are a rehearsal for an invasion with nuclear weapons and has issued threats of a harsh retaliation.
Business partners face a one-day entry ban.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with experts on the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best. With Na Hyung-kyung and Daniel Che.
Arirang News.
Arirang News.
Arirang News.
On Early Edition at 6.
Fears are growing that Korea's household debt load could become unsustainable as the latest figures show it has snowballed to nearly $1 trillion. Arirang News' Hwang Ji-hye has the details.
Korea's household debt shot up by almost $58 billion last year. In a report to the National Assembly on Monday, the Bank of Korea said that household loans by banks rose around $33 billion in 2014, and for non-banking institutions, $24 billion. When adding credit card bills and loans extended by all financial institutions like insurance companies, the total amount of household debt last year was estimated at over $980 billion. That means each Korean is in the red by about $20,000, considering the country's population that stands at around 50 million. Mortgage loans took up 80% of the total household debt, stemming from the central bank's 2 rounds of rate cuts that left the key rate at a record-matching low. The surge in debt was also spurred by the government's attempts to boost home transactions by easing real estate regulations. Experts are concerned that this growing household debt could drag down the domestic economy by denting private spending. They say households tend to refrain from spending even though their income may be rising, because they either use the extra money to pay off their debt or to save up. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Well, competition in the job market is growing fierce here in Korea, especially for those fresh out of college. A university degree alone is often not enough nowadays, so many tend to spend more time adding extra academic qualifications after graduation. Here's Arirang News' Kwon So-ah with more.
It's graduation season in Korea. As a country where around 2/3 of people have a university degree, it's no wonder that it's tough for these fresh-faced graduates to land their dream job.
It has become more difficult to find a job in your field of interest.
It's hard. I'm interested in opening a startup, but I'm afraid as it isn't easy. But then again, it's also hard to apply for a job.
Despite the rosy outlook on the gradual rise in the number of people in work, it's a different story for young people looking to get their foot in the door at a good company.
Due to a limited number of quality jobs, people work part-time jobs until they find a high-quality workplace, or they just continue to search for jobs.
That's why the age of people who were never in the workforce before keeps rising. 1/3 of applicants at some 380 companies last year were in their 30s. Persistently striving for your goal is not a bad thing. That is, if age wasn't a consideration when it comes to getting hired. A job-searching portal says almost 60% of those responsible for hiring are reluctant to take on new people they consider old, men over 32 and women over 30. According to the study, more than half of Korean employees feel uncomfortable working with new people in those age groups, mainly because of Korea's hierarchical office environment, which usually demands that junior employees strictly obey their seniors. But as Korean society also values respect for elderly, many senior employees say it's awkward to give orders to their older juniors. The joy on graduation day may not last too long, especially as companies say they aren't likely to recruit many new employees this year, as they feel the current number is enough. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Good news and bad news. The good one, TVs made by Korean tech giants Samsung and LG are holding a majority of market shares in the US and Europe. Unfortunately, when it comes to smartphones, it's quite a different story. Our Song Ji-sun has this report.
Korea's high-tech TVs are solidifying their lead in the global flat-screen TV market. In Europe, the combined flat TV market share of Samsung and LG Electronics in 2014 topped 60%, meaning 3 out of 5 European customers bought Korean-made flat-screen TVs last year. While LG was at 3rd place in the US market last year, behind local producer Vizio, the two Korean tech giants' combined market share still amounted to nearly half. The trend is backed by the strong preferences of U.S. customers. This year's Consumer Loyalty Engagement Index compiled by the U.S.-based Brand Keys shows Samsung is the top TV producer with the highest brand loyalty for the 4th consecutive year. The firm surveyed over 36,000 American consumers on how willing they are to purchase products from the same brand. The Korean tech giants may be doing well in the flat TV market, but they're struggling to regain their grip on the smartphone segment. In the same poll, Apple kept its lead in the smartphone and laptop categories for the second year in a row, a title once claimed by Samsung back in 2013. Strategy analysts' fourth quarter figures show that Apple accounted for some 49% of global smartphone sales, with its large-screen iPhone 6 models dominating the premium smartphone sector, while Samsung slumped to just 17%. 송지선, Arirang News.
Looks like the sky's the limit for Apple. The company's stock has set yet another closing record of $133 a share, giving the iPhone maker the highest ever market capitalization of any company. Apple's stock price surged 2.7% on Monday. Apple's market cap now stands at almost $775 billion, which is more than 4 times larger than Samsung Electronics. Samsung has been having a tough time competing with Apple at the top end of the smartphone market, while it has Chinese manufacturers closely trailing behind with better price competitiveness.
And speaking of China, an increasing number of global companies are pulling their factories out of China, and this is raising concerns that this trend will hurt China's manufacturing industry. With competition rising from other Asian countries, some say China has lost its position as the go-to place for global firms. Arirang News' Kim Min-ji reports.
Japanese watchmaker Citizen recently shut down its factory in Guangzhou. More than 1,000 employees are up in arms after the sudden layoff, but the company says it's part of its restructuring plans. Citizen isn't the only one. U.S. software giant Microsoft has also shut down its Nokia factory in Guangzhou and plans to open a new factory in Vietnam. And with the Beijing factory also expected to close, some 9,000 employees are expected to lose their jobs. Industry watchers estimate more than 100 large factories, including ones run by Sharp and Panasonic, were shut down before the Chinese New Year in the city of Dongguan, one of the country's main manufacturing hubs. But what has triggered the mass exodus? Experts say rising labor and land costs. Such factors no longer make China a profitable investment. What's more is that the world's second largest economy is not expanding as fast as it used to. Another factor is that countries in Southeast Asia, such as India and Vietnam, are stepping up efforts to lure foreign companies. The U.S., Japan, and Europe are also offering incentives such as tax cuts and investment support to encourage homegrown companies to come back. The trend has raised concerns that China's manufacturing industry, once driven by cheap labor, may be heading for a crisis. The official Purchasing Managers Index stood at 49.8 in January, falling below 50 for the first time in more than 2 years, signaling a contraction. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Korea's conglomerates are widely known to dominate large portions of the economy, so to give smaller companies a better shot in the marketplace, this is what a government agency has done. Today, the Korean Commission for Corporate Partnership renewed the designations for 49 items as off-limits to large conglomerates and added 5 new things to the list. The list includes stationery retailers and grocery and beverage wholesalers, as well as rice cakes, soybean paste, and red pepper paste, which are all commonly used in Korean dishes. Now, this measure is not binding, though. It only means large firms are advised not to enter the market and not to expand existing businesses in those areas over the next 3 years.
Korean households are using much less electricity than their counterparts in the OECD. Data from the Korea Energy Economics Institute on Tuesday shows that Korea was ranked 26th among 34 nations for household electricity consumption, with Norway, Canada, and the U.S. topping that list. The low consumption by Korean households is thought to be largely due to a payment system that sets and raises the unit price based on accumulated energy usage. In terms of the overall power consumption per capita, Korea was 8th on the list, driven by energy-guzzling industries like steel, petrochemicals, and semiconductors. Now, if you're always looking for an outlet to recharge your smartphone, or you need to carry that bulky extra battery with you, this next report is just for you. Our Shin Se-min offers some quick and easy tips to help prolong your phone's battery life.
We make calls, text, take photos, watch videos, play games. The list goes on.
Smartphones have permeated every part of our daily routine. But for some reason, they can't seem to get through today on a single charge.
3번이요.
저는 2번. 하루에 배터리를 스페어 하나 사서 3개 쓰고 있습니다.
한 2-3번 정도 충전하고 있어요.
하루에 3-4번 이상 충전기에 꽂고 충전하는 편이에요.
Korea's Electric Technology Research Institute recently released a guidebook pinpointing some of the ways you can prolong your phone's battery life.
One thing you can do is to keep your phone at room temperature. Your lithium-ion-based batteries rely on electrically charged atoms, and they work the best at warm temperatures. So if you're out as the temperature drops, it is likely that your smartphone battery will drain more quickly. But if you must stay out and still want to keep that last inch of your battery life, just cover it up with a smartphone case or simply put it in a pocket.
Another tip, never let it drop to zero. Unlike the nickel-based batteries in older phones, the batteries in smartphones are designed to be charged frequently. So don't wait until your battery dies. Even if it's fully charged, it's better to keep the phone plugged in for another 2 hours so the energy is distributed to every part of the battery. Also, switch off the vibrate function and don't turn your phone on and off. Dim the screen and disable the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth functions whenever possible. Kill applications if you're not using them and cut back on unnecessary push notifications. Another Facebook update can wait. And you can always track your battery use through apps that'll help show you how to save energy and stay charged. 신세민, Arirang News.
I always thought that it was the opposite. I thought it was better to leave your phone reach the battery, let the battery reach level 0 and then charge. But one thing I learned today, right?
So if you keep it charged longer and everyone follows suit, we're going to go up in the OECD rankings in terms of the electricity usage soon.
Maybe. On to our next story. We see many different kinds of musicals being brought on stage, but not many survive to see its 10th anniversary. Well, today we have one such musical that has crossed that milestone. Can you guess?
It's Notre Dame de Paris. Did I pronounce it properly?
Yes,
French
Notre Dame
accent?
de Paris.
Well, the original cast has reassembled for the occasion, but as our Im Yoon-hee tells us, there are some Korean performers who seem to be stealing that spotlight there.
The musical Notre Dame de Paris broke records when it first came through Korea 10 years ago. And to celebrate, the original cast has reconvened in the capital to launch the start of their new world tour. The tragic love story set in the cathedrals of 15th century France is just as popular this time around as it was when it was first presented. The beautiful songs, combined with the intricate non-stop choreography, have proven to be an appealing and successful combination here in Korea. But there are a few dancers who truly shine in the spotlight, and that's the 8 Korean dancers and performers selected to perform alongside the original team, a world-class performing troupe.
There is no room for a break, and we dance until the end in the cathedral where the final act takes place. But it's really demanding. It's very draining to perform.
Demanding as it is, each member of the team pours all of their efforts into it, no matter what obstacles may lie in their way.
While I was ringing the bell, I slipped and pulled a muscle in my thigh. Afterward, I was afraid they would say Korean acrobats were weak, so I kept pushing forward and didn't show any signs of stopping.
From modern dance to ballet and even aerial choreography, the musical casts only the best of the best, and these 8 have proven that they belong on this team.
European dancers are taller, but I realized I make larger gestures and I'm louder. I was in charge of the biggest bell, and the original team complimented my work, making me proud.
The musical is set to be presented in Korea through the end of this week, with these dancers and acrobats shining through each and every performance. Im Yoon-hee, Arirang News.
Mask sales are set to decline here in Korea soon because the yellow dust has cleared here in Seoul. Still hanging around in Gangwon-do and Chungcheong-do provinces Although levels are lower there as well, they are still at the point where they could cause health problems.
Well, apparently there are things that you should and should not do to prevent the yellow dust from causing any health issues. So let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center, who has some tips for us. Michelle.
Hi guys, first of all, on a day like this, it's best to stay indoors if possible, but if you are going outside, make sure to wear a mask that covers your face so you don't inhale dust particles. And glasses instead of contact lenses, of course. Now also drink lots of water to rinse away the pollutants that you have in your system. And here are some of the things that you should avoid doing outside, such as smoking, eating, and running. So make sure to follow these tips to stay healthy. Fine dust levels here in Seoul have improved, but they are still high at over 100 micrograms per cubic meter, so make sure to have your mask on when you're going outside. Tomorrow we have rain in the forecast, starting on Jeju Island in the afternoon and moving towards the capital and bringing some drizzle down into the evening, so make sure to have your umbrellas handy. Now going over to our temperature readings for tomorrow. So we'll start off the Wednesday morning at -1, gets up to high at 10 degrees in the afternoon, while Daegu and Busan will both top to 11 degrees. And moving over to other regions, Jeju Island gets up to 10, Dokdo hits to 7, while Mangkeungang is snowing at -1 degrees. Well, that's all for now, Michelle Park, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thanks for that, Michelle. I'm still wearing 2 masks today outside.
Yes, me too.
Well,
just in case.
Right, just to be safe. Well, we hope you do the same if you're in Korea or nearby areas where it's affected by the yellow dust. That's it from us. Have a great start to your day or a safe drive home. This has been Daniel Che.
And I'm Na Hyun-kyung. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Goodbye for now.